Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here with Everything MSP. Welcome to another episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. This is another installment of our MSP Breakthrough segments, and these are all about those breakthrough aha moments for MSPs as far as what they did to take their business to the next level. And today, I'm very excited to have Brian Weiss, CEO and Chief AI Officer. I love that, of iTech Solutions. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, let's talk about the Chief AI Officer.
Yeah. So I'm a sci-fi geek by heart, and I grew up always fantasizing about like AI. And never thought I'd be alive.
Yeah.
And is a chance to play with it, even though we kind of see it more in its infancy stage right now, as far as not being fully autonomous.
Right.
But the minute it came out, LLMs a couple of years ago, I just hyper focused on it and learning everything I can about it. Not only to use as a toy, if you will, and just kind of have fun with, but also trying to understand how can I use this in my business. And I realized, is this CEO work that I'm doing? And I looked up the definition. I used an LLM and I asked it, what does a chief AI officer do? And literally like every bullet point it came up with, I'm like, that's what I'm doing for our business.
Yeah.
And so, and naturally, figuring out how we can do that for our clients as well. Right.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. And obviously AI is not going anywhere. The whole focus has always been cybersecurity. Now, AI being incorporated in it doesn't mean cybersecurity goes away. It actually makes cybersecurity even more important. Do you agree?
Yeah, I wonder. I do see AI kind of making cybersecurity maybe more of a simple math problem, but where I see AI versus humans anyway. But when you have AI versus AI, there's going to be things happening so fast that humans won't be able to keep up.
Right.
So it is good. It is currently and will continue to be a critical part of cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your MSP. Can you give a little background about it? How how long have you been in place? With iTech and so on.
Yeah, I started iTech in 2005 after being an independent contractor and realizing I needed to hire employees. I've always loved computers. Started in high school, even was fixing computers on campus my senior year. All the teachers loved me.
Nice.
And so it was just a career I naturally fell into it. And we started out, in 2005 as a break fix. And I was an engineer at heart. Didn't go to Harvard Business School or anything. So, the school of hard knocks when it came to understanding how do I run a business.
Sure.
That it's kind of a technology business, I should say.
Yeah.
And, grew our business over the years. We actually had a web development department as well.
Okay.
I saw early on, in 2005 that there's this future. I didn't know what to call it back then, but SaaS is what it's called.
Yeah.
Web-based applications. And so we had that department for about 13 years. Primarily did websites. Also developed a couple SaaS products we ended up selling off. But IT has always been where my heart's at.
Okay. So true passion.
True passion. So, sold that off really because I saw the space getting a bit commoditized.
Okay.
And it was, I would say it was 2008, kind of going back now where we started doing MSP stuff as far as a managed service type of agreement.
Right.
That was when we had the recession.
Yep.
I was worried about, losing revenue. My clients were worried about their expenses. And so we came up with this idea of like a fixed rate model.
Right.
Where, I could stay in business and then they wouldn't have to worry about the peaks and the valleys with their IT expenses. So that's really 2008 is probably when we started really working, but we developed all our own tools in-house initially.
Oh, interesting.
We had like what you call a PSA or a ticket system. We had our own password manager, our own documentation system.
Wow, that's impressive. That's something that, either an MSP in those days, looked for a tool, or they were using like very archaic type things like spreadsheets and so on.
Yeah, we had a dream of building something that we might sell one day as a SaaS product.
Yeah.
But what happened was, our web department had all these other cash projects that they were getting, and it was like, do I take the cash projects or work on internal projects for IT?
Okay.
So ultimately what happened is we were growing faster than the software we developed to run our company could keep up with.
Gotcha.
And that's when I got introduced to the MSP channel. It actually wasn't until 2015.
Okay.
So the first 10 years, I guess I was maybe a little bit on an island, not realizing there's this great community out there to help us. And then quickly adopted a PSA, took on some MSP tools. It really allowed us to mature our processes better.
Okay.
And we grew 50% in just 2 years.
Nice.
Just retooling and baking in a lot of our processes to make them a little more efficient, automated. So that was a great time. And we've continued to grow. Really, our latest kind of movement from a scalability perspective is COVID. So we kind of fell into co-manage before I even knew it was called co-manage.
Okay.
With one of our clients that started out as 100 employees, and now they're up to 4,200 employees.
Oh my!
And
wow.
We had the opportunity to grow with them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because their model, they're acquiring other companies. It's very similar to how an MSP, takes on another client.
Right.
The onboarding, the discovery, the meshing into this, the systems, existing systems. And so we're really helping their internal IT become like a mini MSP, if you will.
Right.
And I love it because, I do love servicing small businesses, right? I love the small business community. It's very relationship based.
Yep.
But sometimes I wonder if it runs off of gut feeling a little too much. And as I were working with larger clients, I appreciated their approach to process and how important that was, and not running things based off of a gut, right? And it was easier to help coach and consult them with technology decisions. And larger companies, small businesses, typically you're dealing with an economic buyer. So you don't get to talk technically with them too much.
Sure.
Whereas a larger co-managed client, there's a technical buyer and an economic buyer. And we typically interface more often with the technical buyer and then help tell that story to the economic buyer.
Yeah.
And so, engineer at heart, I have more fun talking and working with my co-managed clients because it's internal IT, and it's like, hey, we're in the same boat together, same language.
Yeah.
So that's really where we're growing right now is co-managed. We still want to do fully managed, but we've capped our clients there at 50 and kind of want to rotate them out for better clients because I look at co-managed as for really like consulting, coaching, teaching, helping with projects, and sometimes siloed, SAP augmentation, but we're not fully managing the account.
Right.
I don't want to lose connection with what it's like to fully manage an account.
Right.
It's kind of like if I'm going to be a teacher, I also want to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And it gives us that flexibility to, hey, here's our fully managed suite of services. Here's what we're doing from a fully managed perspective. What items from this fully managed service portfolio make sense to help fill gaps with our co-managed ones?
It really is amazing that, many of these larger organizations, when you take a look at their policies and procedures or how they're managing the technology, it is surprising that, it is not quite as of a well-oiled machine as, you might think being a large organization.
I'm glad you called that out because I've found that the average internal IT department is less sophisticated than the average MSP.
Yeah.
Right. So we help kind of rise the tides with internal IT, just like we share what we learn with the MSP community, where we want to help rise the tides with MSPs. But our ultimate goal is to make them look like rock stars.
Yeah. And that's, that's, it sounds weird saying that's fun, but that's fun, right? Because you're taking a whole lot of pressure off their past. They want to do the best, but they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. You mentioned, how you started becoming part of the IT community, the channel, going to events. there isn't anything like that for them. And you are providing that for them in a way that they're like, I can do this now.
Yeah, I wonder if internal IT sometimes feels like they're on an island,
Right.
just like we were for kind of the first 10 years of iTech before we discovered the
Right.
MSP channel. And when you're on an island, you don't realize all the opportunity that you have to make things more efficient, to focus on, ultimately creating better outcomes for the organization.
Right.
And then likewise, I see situations where the exec team or the C-suite, I don't know that they give internal IT enough credit, maybe, or they can blame things on internal IT, and it stints internal IT's growth in areas where they could truly provide business outcomes.
Right.
And so we come in and help mediate that, right? Like, how do we help connect the dots? We do what we gather user stories. So, one of the items we were going to talk about is people processing technology.
Yeah. Let's jump into that.
Yeah. So, and we didn't always do it this way either, right? I mean, as an engineer at heart, I'm always focused heavily on the technology. That's what I know. I love.
We all do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think of a small business or even a large organization, other than IT or someone that's very technical, they're really more concerned with achieving business outcomes.
Right.
And in order to understand what do those look like, it's really, you're focusing initially less on the technology and more on the people in the process.
Sure.
So I feel like those should come first. And I'm coming to learn that more and more. Like, let's get to know the people, the stakeholders that, in HR, finance, operations, even who's making decisions around risk. Right. Let's help understand the processes they use and the challenges they face. Right. And before we even start talking about technology.
Yeah.
So we do this thing, we call them user stories.
Okay.
That we like to gather to help understand the big picture. And it starts out really not almost trying to avoid talking about technology.
Right.
Because, if you get them where they start veering down a technology challenge, like, our servers are old. Okay, well, that's great. I mean, that's life cycle management. We do that all day long.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about the bigger picture items about your organization and how you're trying to drive it forward and what challenges you feel like you face trying to drive it forward, whether they're technology related or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think the, business outcome, we talk a lot. You're on our calls regularly, our Friday calls. And, it's one of the things that we talk a lot about is taking that technology hat off and focusing on those business outcomes. And I truly believe that is the stickiness that we can, stickiness isn't about, hey, I put all these tools in place, and if you leave us, we're going to yank all this out, right?
Yeah.
There's other MSPs that can do the same thing. But an MSP that's just focused on those tools and that staff and not about, I was just on a panel last week, and one of the things that I said is one of the first questions I have for a prospect is, tell me about, what is your mission statement? I want to learn about what your goals and objectives are, because that helps me to understand, number one, what do we need to do to help them achieve that? Because it's, we sell technology. They're not technologists. Their product is what their product is, whatever it is. But technology is a tool to help them to get to the point. So we have to really shift that conversation drastically.
Yeah, and one of the challenges I see as we're taking this people process technology approach is also helping educate on the importance of shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. There's really that shared responsibility model where we need to get away from, business owners or even C-suite teams, not even wanting to get involved or using an excuse of getting involved with shared responsibility around IT by saying, oh, IT handles that. That's IT's job. Oh, well, you're my IT provider. I don't want to have to deal with that. That's your call.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, Well, technically, there's a shared responsibility here, right? Especially when it comes to risk decisions around risk,
Right.
and especially if you truly want to use IT as an investment instead of just an expense, it needs to tie ultimately to helping you achieve your positive business outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. And if the idea is, hey, I want to have these positive business outcomes, but I don't want to have to do anything with IT, I'm just going to let them handle that. Well, now there's a disconnection. And our is IT, whether it's outsourced or internal, are they really approaching in helping the organization use technology in a way that actually connects to the business outcome?
Right.
And so the shared responsibility model for smaller businesses, I feel like, is even harder, because with our existing clients, as we're taking this new approach, it is that feeling of, well, we love working with you. Why do we have to start having these conversations we've never had before?
Right. Right.
You know, we feel like you're doing just fine, and it's like, well, we don't want to be that commoditized IT service provider.
Yep.
Where it's, you know, we're just providing you with a stack of security services and doing lifecycle management. We really want to help connect the dots and understand how we can help you reach those business outcomes with technology.
Right.
And that starts getting into discussions around line of business apps that are being used.
Yep.
And there's a whole, you know, with everyone moving to the cloud, and you see employees signing up for apps because they feel like it's going to help the business, and they don't even tell IT about it, right? With the cloud apps. I blame Apple for that, right?
Right.
There's an app for that. They trained a whole generation of people to just go get an app. And there's never like consult IT first in small print. They should have done it like the medical or the health or the pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
At the very end, it's like, you should have consult IT.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's this, you know, I guess shadow IT, right? Is what we call it, that we don't have a grasp on. And I think that's part of the disconnect of you know, the client or the C-suite team not realizing that IT should be involved in a lot of those decisions,
right?
You know, that have to do with people and process.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not, you know, from a, you know, conversational perspective, it's not us versus them. It's we.
Yeah.
And I know this is getting real granular, but, you know, we always want to have conversations. So when we're meeting with them, it's never, well, you could do this or you could do that. It's us, it's we. And because we are all together as a team, and I never want any of my technicians to be, you know, having a conversation and you know, not making it sound like we're not part of the team. Because if there is that disconnect, then, you know, it's transactional and not a true partnership. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is, you know, you talked about having that shared responsibility. How do you approach that within the organization?
So what's worked well so far is we actually take an approach where we define a tech committee.
Okay.
Right. And so the idea is, hey, we want you to start a tech committee in your organization of people that are, you know, and what does that look like? Well, who handles HR, finance, operations, who makes decisions around risk? Easy way on that is like, who signs up for your insurance policies? Who determines, you know, your limits and liability around insurance, you know, especially cybersecurity insurance. Typically, that's the business owner or the CPO that ultimately makes that call already. But, you know, who are those people? In a small business, a lot of that might be shared roles. So, you know, understanding, hey, even though there's kind of those four categories, it still might only be one or two people that are on that tech committee.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're not on that tech committee, right?
Right.
And we consult to that tech committee.
Gotcha.
And so that helps them understand that, hey, you ultimately own the decisions that are made around technology.
Right.
And we're going to help consult and drive forward technology so that hopefully it helps you reach the business outcomes.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up here, what's one piece of advice from your breakthrough findings that you would give to an MSP that's looking to take their business to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, you know, we've been getting coaching. That's really what's helped us. We have a marketing coach, we have a sales coach, and we have an operations coach.
Nice.
And we're really trying to adhere to frameworks. Our three, we redid our mission, vision, values.
Okay.
I'll call out our three core values: stoicism, focus on the things you can control. Don't let the things you can't control distract you from the things you can't control.
Okay.
Continuous improvement, right? Always looking to improve, and process-driven excellence.
Okay.
Right. So we try to define a process for everything, focusing only on the things we can control, and strive to continuously improve, and adhere to some sort of framework along the way, right?
Okay.
And it's good to have coaching for that. But for someone that's worked with so many different organizations and has seen more than what I've seen.
Right. Yep. Excellent. Brian, I greatly appreciate your time. And this wraps up this episode of MSP Breakthroughs. And keep an eye out for more episodes of it. Until next time, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. That's great. I know we didn't get into